Hello, welcome to another developer blog. Today, well, I'm feeling kind of depressed. Uh, we just did a sale for retrograde, well, recently, and the numbers really aren't what I was hoping for. I thought I had relatively conservative estimate of how we would do on the sale, but we didn't do nearly that well. We did probably about half of what I was expecting. And so it's led me to sort of take a hard look at retrograde and what I spent 4.5 years of my life working on. And the thing is that I don't know if the game was good and no one's heard about it, or the game was good but only appeals to a niche audience, or the game just wasn't that great. And certainly the game not being that great is the hardest of those possibilities to accept. It's difficult to say I put all this time and love and effort into making something that people aren't really a fan of, that people aren't interested in. And it's tough because to some extent I'm pretty conflicted, because there's definitely people who love it, who are extremely passionate about it. I think that the best thing that happened to me on the development of Retrograde is someone came up to me at PAX. They played the game a bunch at PAX and they said, "This is the best game I've ever played," which was huge for me personally. Just hearing that someone thinks this game is better than, all the other games out there. There's so many amazing games by amazing game developers, and someone thinks, Retrograde is the best. It's huge, and it really gave me the strength to continue development when it was very difficult. And certainly as I talked in my GDC talk, and even in previous developer diary blog things, whatever, it was very difficult to finish Retrograde. But I mean, I don't know, some people might argue that, even the not great game, it's someone's favorite game. So I'm not sure what that means for Retrograde. Certainly we got good reviews, whatever that means, but the general apathy towards the game in terms of consumers, in terms of the game buying public, is difficult. It's difficult for me to deal with, and I mean, it's been a real sort of confidence loser, and it's depressing, because I feel like I wasted all this time, and I mean, certainly I feel like I learned a lot, and I'm still trying to figure out what I can take from the Retrograde experience, and how I can use that to make myself a better game developer. And certainly I've been trying to share some of those lessons with everyone through my GDC talk and through these developer diaries. But it's a process, and I feel like I'm still learning and still trying to figure it out. But yeah, it's been depressing, and certainly I feel like the game I'm working on now is really special and something really great. But I mean, it definitely shakes my confidence, because it's like, hey, I think we'll be able to get a certain number of people interested in the game at whatever price, and that didn't end up being the case. I mean, it's a tough market for indie games, and there's so many great indie games out there, and so many games competing for your consumers' dollars. But I just wish Retrograde could do better, I guess. I'm sure everyone says that, especially those of us with, an unsuccessful game. They poured their heart and soul into it, and I mean, like, I don't know. It's funny sometimes. I mean, I've worked on some games that were not very great, and I'm sure, there are games where the development team is mostly phoning it in, but I'm sure there's plenty of failure games where people really poured their heart and soul into it and just things didn't come together. And I wonder if Retrograde is one of those. And certainly we made a lot of mistakes, and I feel like going back I could have made a much better Retrograde. But is Retrograde a game that was even worth making? I don't know. Certainly I thought the premise was really clever, and I thought it was interesting and sort of thought-provoking and neat to see how things worked backwards, but, you know, maybe that was just some cheap novelty and we just had rhythm game mechanics that are built around music that isn't popular original music. I don't know, it's tough having a game that means so much to you, that you put so much into, do so poorly. But that's part of life, I guess. That's the risk you take as an indie game developer, and I think that's a risk you need to be aware of if you're planning on making indie games. So, something I'm struggling with, something I'm going to think about, and something you should think about in terms of your projects.